welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. I greatly appreciate your patronage. Um, First, happy Thanksgiving to everybody wherever you may be. I hope that you had a chance to get together with your families and share a meal and show gratitude to the Most High for all the blessings and the bounty that He pours upon us as families, individuals, as country. We're so fortunate and so greatly blessed, and this is really the only holiday or holy day that I really honor and revere. I don't celebrate the other pagan holidays, but this one, it doesn't seem to, in any way that I've seen or in any way that I've studied out, to be connected in any manner to some prior pagan celebration. It was just uh, an observance to show thanksgiving, to show gratitude to the Great Spirit, the Holy Spirit, and to the Father for just the harvest and the bounty, and being able to come together with friends and family and um, honor a moment and to celebrate excuse me, celebrate a day. And so those of you wherever you may be, I hope that again you were able to just come together in family, because family is so very important. And family is something that especially those that really love you unconditionally and that have your back through thick and thin. I mean, there's nothing greater than the glory of God. Um, and so I just hope everybody's having a good time, um, and that you are all blessed, and that we're almost to a new year, and this year went by so quickly, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming year and to see the possibilities of a new chapter, a new era, a new day. So, anyways, but I have as guest with me this evening Scott Bunnell. He's going to be talking about the recent discoveries that he and his Codesearcher group have discovered in looking into and studying out the Bible codes. And so, Scott, are you there, brother?
I'm here, brother. Shalom and blessings to you in the name of Yah, brother. Thank you for welcoming me back on your show.
Yeah, no worries.
It's very exciting, and it's just awesome. And likewise with you, brother. I'm thankful for friends and family, and I just need to mention that Zach Bauer of New to Torah, for those of you listening, his wife had passed away today. I know that she had been struggling with an ongoing physical ailment. I think it was cancer. And, in light of all this stuff that has taken place this year with division and everything, I didn't have very much interaction with Zach, and I don't even know where we even stood on these issues. But you know what? In a time like this, none of that matters. He's a brother, and my heart goes out to him, and my prayers go out to him. And may he find peace in his grieving and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. I reiterate the same. I send all my condolences. I did not know what was going on, but I can only imagine to lose someone of significant like that in your life. It's got to be terribly damaging.
Sure. And regardless of anything, he believes in the same Messiah, and he loves Yah and he loves the Torah, and that's a lot to be said right there. And he's a brother, so I just wanted to give that little bit of sentiment, anyways. Then.
Yeah, yeah. As myself as well, and I really appreciate you bringing that up. I
Absolutely.
had no idea, and so yeah, we ask the listening audience to please pray for brother Zach and whatever he may be
Sure, and
going
him,
through.
and for him, and for anybody who's going through any kind of hardship today or experiencing any kind of loss, while everyone is just having time with their family, it should make us be more grateful in that respect to our friends and our family and what we do have, and giving praise and thanks to Yah for that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was saying, family is so very important, and to lose your spouse is, wow, that's deeply affecting.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
and,
But
and Zach is really, he's young, right? He and
somewhat, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think he's no, a spring chicken to
Hmm.
say, but he's no older gentleman either. Um, I don't really know a whole lot about him. I know I've always kind of enjoyed hearing what he had to say on his platform, New to Torah,
Mm.
on the times when I did catch him. But yeah, so
Yeah, I thought he was younger than myself, but
he
um,
could be.
yeah.
It could be. Sometimes the beard will make you look a little older.
Yeah,
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 it
absolutely.
gives you
Yeah.
that look of wisdom and age and
Elder of the
prosperity.
tribe look, right?
Right,
Right.
right. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, so what have you been up to, and what have you been looking into, examining,
um,
researching in particular?
a lot of information, so much. For anybody that's listening, that's on your page, on the Eyes Wide Open page on Facebook, they could look at my post and look at the annotations as we speak on them. Um, Open up a browser if you're able to. For those listening, if you're able to open up a browser and open that up, and then we can just kind of go through some of those as we speak on them. And if you can, if you're able, those of you out there listening, to have an interlinear Bible open, because we're going to be looking at some things probably on second segment. I'll just say they're interesting anomalies.
All right,
So
cool.
it'll be helpful if you're not able to get on the Facebook page, on the Eyes Wide Open page, at least have a interlinear Bible open, and we can go verse by verse so that you can have a visual while we explain. First segment. Hopefully we'll have enough time to cover all of this. If we don't, that's fine. I have a lot there. And this isn't even all of it, um, but yeah, I guess we'll start with codes. We'll start with codes, and I do have to give a couple shout outs in, because the last time I was on, there was somebody I had forgot to mention. We have a student who has gone through the study course, and finished all of her tests, and she recently started her own platform, her own channel. It's called Focus on Bible Codes, and that is Anne, and she is just an awesome researcher. She mainly searches in the Torah, and her tables really are detailed and her tables kind of express Yah's artistic quality. Um, Either way, it's a great channel, and her table is always really neat, and so I'm sure she would appreciate any views or support that comes her way. And I had forgot to brought that up when I was on with you last time, so I just wanted to take the chance to do that. And of
Yeah.
course,
Before we go into the different codes that you have posted here, kind of tell those that may not be familiar with your work, or that of your group, kind of what you do and when y'all get together and how they can be involved, and even what a Bible code is for those that may not be
Sure,
familiar.
sure, absolutely. Um, we meet twice a week. It's codesearcher.com. Anybody who's interested can go there. If they want to get involved, they can get on the site. He also has a channel, Codesearcher, on YouTube. And, it isn't just confined to Bible codes, which I'll talk about here in a second and explain what they are, and how it works and what the purpose is. We're a pretty well-rounded group. It isn't just confined to codes. We're now studying Aramaic, obviously study Hebrew, because you have to learn and know the Hebrew in order to work in the codes. The coding doesn't exist in the English translations. So, and what we're looking at is equidistant letter sequences. So that means the code is equally spaced letters, and it could be 5 letters. It could be any number of letters. It could be 20. It could be 50. But that is ultimately up to Yahuwah. He has placed this in the text, and the reason why is to reconcile the surface text. And this is what we call Ramsel method. This is a methodology that we have adapted in order to reconcile the code, and that's what it does. The code reconciles the surface text, and likewise the other way around. The surface text will also support the coding, and everybody will see what I mean for those of you looking at the annotations. Okay, and also it identifies things that are happening prophetically, I believe, because obviously the scripture, it gives us a picture of the prophetic, but the code helps detail specific things. So, and that is the purpose that it serves. And it's called the Ramsel method because the last time I was on, I was talking about a gentleman by the name of Yaakov Ramsel. Anybody who's interested can go and look him up on YouTube. He was the one who had found the very well-known Yeshua Shmi code in Isaiah 53. And what that translates to into English is Jesus is my name. Yeshua is my name. And for that to be in Isaiah 53, I don't think I have to explain to anyone why that is profound.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after it was found, when you look at the extensions, and what I mean by extensions is when you follow the skip, 21 letters, it says, from above, Yeshua is my great name.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, that's combined in just 12 verses. It's a very small passage and a very significant, probably the most profound, significant messianic passage in the whole Tanakh. A paramount Bible code. For anybody who's interested in Bible codes, that should be like your go-to Bible code. So we're going to just see how this is applied. And the best way to do this is obviously with Yeshua codes. Because he's our Messiah, and he said, the whole word testifies unto me. And the Bible codes, they validate that and they back that up. So you're going to see the coding match the surface text. So I kind of threw these, when I uploaded these pictures, I started thinking of more and more. And when we get towards the end of our segment, I'm going to have to kind of bounce back and forth because I didn't arrange things in order. But we'll get through it.
Yeah,
first,
absolutely.
Do you have your browser open, Zen?
I do.
To my post? Okay, very good. I also want to thank Chris Ray at Bible Code Theory Research for helping me out and providing me with annotations. I have some as well, but I love his annotations because they're very colorful, they're very detailed, and he does a great job of conveying what it's saying. Obviously, you can't show codes unless they're annotated.
Hey,
And,
before we move from this, I wanted to bring something up and ask you if you were aware of it or not. And
okay.
it has to do with a book that my son just released called The Word of the Lord, a comparative analysis of the hidden memra. Uh,
Okay.
are you familiar with? Because we just did a show on it.
I saw the post on it. I didn't get a chance to check it out though.
Okay, well, just to give you an idea of what it is, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because it goes right along with this Bible code found in Isaiah 53,
Wow.
and also with because what he did is he looked at all the instances in the Tanakh, in the the first five books of Moshe and the Psalms, and also we did the study in Isaiah, where we looked at all of the Aramaic, the original Aramaic, where there is the word of the Lord is mentioned within the scriptures, but
Mm-hmm.
you see that all of these mentions, like in the Pentateuch, there are 217 um, allusions to the word of the Lord in Scripture.
Mm.
But in the King James, there's only 12. And,
Okay.
and so you see all of these passages which should speak about and allude to the word of the Lord in Scripture, they've been removed. But they're preserved in the original Aramaic. And so he did this comparative analysis of looking at the the Targum for both the Psalms and the Pentateuch, and at some point we'll be adding the Isaiah scriptures as well. But for right now, it's just the Pentateuch and Psalms. But even in the Psalms, there's almost 100 instances of the word of the Lord being mentioned within the scriptures, and yet there's like 11 in the King James. And so you have like almost 200, 300 times where the word of the Lord is removed from the scripture.
Wow.
And it's hidden that, Christ, the Logos, the Memra, the word of the Lord, had interactions with and was involved in deeply with the patriarchs of old, and also with the establishment of Israel as a nation. And so
Yes.
these kind of things are lost to modern consideration because they've been hidden, forgotten, and forbidden. And so it's just really interesting that when you examine the older translation, the Aramaic, all of this is preserved. And in the same manner, just as you guys are working and bringing forth, it's also preserved within the Bible codes. Because
Right.
even though the, I believe, the seed of the serpent had tried to um, manipulate and to misconstrue the scriptures and to mistranslate them by
Sure.
taking out these kind of things. God preserved them in His own way, you know,
Yes.
within the original translations, as far as the first translation of the Hebrew into a different language, the Aramaic, and then we see here in the Bible codes, which they didn't even know these existed, and there's no way for them to remove this knowledge or these kind of revelations from them
Sure.
either. And
Exactly.
so that's the most awesome thing.
Yeah. Yeah. He. You could have said it any better, Zen. He hid this for us. There's no
Right.
way that the enemy has done this. And I've spoken to some people, And I've gotten reactions like, well, you know, with the Bible codes, that leans towards more like Talmud. Eh, it's silly. It's just a silly answer. Talmud is rabbinical Judaism. It's a volume of inserted doctrine and traditions that don't belong in the Torah. So no, it is not Talmud. It's not Kabbalah. Kabbalah is witchcraft.
Right.
Kabbalah is okay. They do something in Kabbalah called pulsa denora, which is called, when you translate it, it means lashes of fire. That's basically summoning demons to do harm to people, and then they use amulets and trinkets. And this is not that. This is looking at the word at like a DNA level. Bible codes on their own aren't something that's what you would say dispositive. It's not. I mean, you could use them for a bad purpose. Like if I wanted to, try to find winning lottery numbers or see who my future wife is or find out when I'm going to die or, I could see, that would border on like divination or whatever.
Right.
But there's answers in place in the scriptures to help reconcile things. It's there. The answers are there. It is, and it proves that it's divinely inspired.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's so I'm glad you had said that. It's a good point. And here's a good example. Here's a good example. The first annotation. If you go to Proverbs, this is a very well-known passage. And it shows Messiah in the Old Testament. Proverbs 30, verse 4. Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the fists in his winds? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou can tell? And if you set the page margin at 22 letters, just 22 letters, which is very interesting. I'll explain that in a second. You'll see Yeshua Shai, which means Yeshua the gift. Going right through where it says, what is his son's name? It's giving you the answer right now at a skip of 22, which is very cool because there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, as you would say in English. And Eric Bissell does a really good job of explaining how Yeshua characterizes the whole alphabet, 22 letters. So I find that very interesting that it's at a skip of 22.
He is the word.
He is the word. From the Aleph to the Tav. I am the Aleph to the Tav, the first and the last. So not only do we see things in the codes, in the text and in the coding and what it's expressing, but we see other little cool, little interesting data points that come together, like skip numbers. It's something very cool, and we're going to see that in the codes I had worked on in Jude. Moving along, the next one, Job 33:4. It's one verse, one short verse. The spirit of El has made me, and the breath of the Almighty has given me life. And just in that one short verse, you'll see Yeshua and Moshiach, which is Hebrew for Messiah, converge together on the word Shaddai. Now, this is like 4 bolts of lightning hitting one spot randomly on a sunny day. It's just this Shin. Okay, that's the big thing for me right there, is how Yeshua and Mashiach share the Shin. And not only a Shin, but in the word Shaddai, because the letter Shin means Shaddai, or one of its meanings. It means consuming fire, teeth, crown. It represents a crown, but it also means El Shaddai. I mean, it blows my mind. That is just that, and when you consider the surface text, that is awesome. It's just simply put, awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So to to kind of help explain with codes and everything, Yeshua codes is just a perfect example. So another thing we've been talking about, discussing, and working on is the story of Rabbi Kaduri. Right now, as a matter of fact, I'm in the middle of reading Carl Gallup's, his second book, The Rabbi, The Secret Message, and the Identity of Messiah. Now, a lot of people there's a lot of controversy.
Hold on, brother. Hold on. We're at first break.
Okay.
We'll be right back, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody. And yeah, the story of Kaduri is very interesting, to say the least. And so if you would, share that.
Yeah, it's very profound. And it's a clear example that he will come and meet you where you're at. Because, I mean, we're talking about, he was a Haredai Jew, like a Sephardim. And he studied, he was a yeshiva. And he studied Talmud, and he did study Kabbalah, and he did all those things that we are staunchly against.
Right.
And at a point in his life when he was very old, he lived to be 106, 107. Nobody really knows. Some say he even lived at like 120 something. Okay.
Wow.
And this is a clear example of Ramsol method reconciling Kaduri wasn't alive when Psalms was written. So and this will show you how the surface text supports the code and vice versa. We're going to go to Psalms 91, we'll just start at verse 15, where it's really significant. It says, "He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him, and I will honor him. With long life will I satisfy him, and I will show him my salvation. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation." Show him my Yeshua. Now, before, a handful of years before he passed away, he had an encounter with Messiah. You know the story. He wrote a letter. He kept it a secret. And he told his closest followers, because he had yeshivas under him, and said, "Don't open this letter until a year after I pass away. It'll have the Messiah's name on it." And it took him a while, but it was in code, not like equidistant letter sequences like Bible code. It was they call it anacrostic. It's where every word, it's like the first letter of every word, so it's not equidistant, but it's still a form of coding in itself. And when they saw it, of course everybody flipped, and of course the Orthodox community just flipped, and for me, this is very profound. I mean, it's, but yeah, his name is encoded right there. Now, he lived a long life, and he was shown Yeshua. This is a clear example of how this works, and that's no coincidence that Kaduri's name is right there.
That's amazing.
It is. It's very amazing. I mean, it's not surprising.
Let me comment on this. For those that don't know the story, the fullness of it, you can look it up. Rabbi Kaduri, and this, I believe that he had memorized the Torah, and that he spoke several languages, and he was very well respected in the community there in Israel, amongst the Talmudists and the Kabbalists, which we know them again to be like the Pharisees, and the seed of the serpent, the synagogue of Satan. And yet he had a vision of the Messiah coming to him, and he wrote the name Yahushua on this piece of paper. And so he admitted, and this is something that the rabbis have denied. And we know that, that's why they killed Christ and denied him as Savior Messiah, and are still awaiting the coming of Messiah. And yet he reveals on this piece of paper, and it was affirmed and attested to being authentic, even though it was something that caused an uproar in the community
Sure.
that this individual would admit that Yahushua was Savior Messiah when, that was everything that they were against. I mean, so yeah,
Right.
it's very profound. And then for you to find this passage in connection, this Bible code in connection with the revealing, wow, that's deeply
It is
profound. I
deep.
mean, it's
Um,
mind
this is
blowing.
Chris's find here. We kind of collaborate on these though,
Hmm.
and it's you'll find his name encoded in other places that in Isaiah. And here's the thing, because before he died in 2006, early 2006, on the previous Day of Atonement, and they just thought he was batty, because he was getting old. They just thought maybe he just had his nuts rattling around up in his head, a few nuts and bolts and screws loose up there. And he gets up on the bema, which is their podium in the synagogue, and instead of reciting the normal scheduled Torah portion, which would be out of Jonah, I believe, he starts reciting Isaiah 53.
Awesome. That is
And
awesome.
so that's another kind of witness and to that whole situation.
Let's clarify too. For those that don't know Isaiah 53, it is a messianic prophecy contained within the book of Isaiah, which Isaiah was the prophet that spoke of in great detail of the coming of Messiah in many, many deeply profound passages. And so, but Isaiah 53 is one of those that alludes to without question. And it's one
Mhm.
that even now, many people like that, the Jewish people, even my friend Stephen Ben Noon, he talked about, Isaiah 53, and others, and that it was profound for bringing them into belief on the Messiah. And so it's something that is very clear. And yet, the Jews, some of them still try to deny and try to skirt what is clearly revealed as messianic prophecy within
Sure.
it. And so,
Sure,
but
they'll
yeah,
tell you, yeah, they'll tell you that chapter is talking about Israel.
right.
Well, I don't recall a nation, let alone a secular nation, taking a beating for my sins.
Hmm.
Um, it just, some of the explanations I hear are just kind of tongue in cheek and just kind of ridiculous. They'll say anything to try to
Right.
deny that whole situation. Are we on for an hour then, or are we on for two?
No, we're on for two.
Okay. All right. So I don't have to rush through these.
No.
Um, um, Chris did a great job of annotating this, and basically what he did was he opened up a page width at 38, and what I mean by page width is 38 letters at a closed margin on either side. So that means you're writing 38 letters in Psalms 91 and starting over on the next row, just 38, this very small area, and the detail to record Yeshua. He knows my name. He anointed the note before Yahuwah in the spirit. Um, it's just I can't find words. It's incredible.
Hmm. Yeah.
The detail and explaining how the circumstances. It's just incredible detail, and it's see. This is what I'm talking about. The details you see. It's just you can't deny that this is divinely inspired. You can't do this in Moby Dick or Gone with the Wind.
Right.
It
You
just
can't
doesn't
do it with
happen.
any other text.
Right.
Matter of fact.
Um, so we have a kind of a collection of these Kaduri codes, and it's very enjoyable because that's a very inspiring story for me. Something that I just kind of gravitated towards, and Chris just so happened to be working on that as well. So he threw me a couple last minute quick annotations, and I appreciate him for that. So we can move along.
And before we do, I would just want to share, I want to read a little bit of Isaiah 53 just to give people an idea of what we are talking about.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just going to start from verse 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, and so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. He shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. And so you see, without a doubt, I mean, everything about his being crucified on the cross, dying for our sins, being the lamb that took on the sins of all the world. I mean, undeniable. Even his clothing being split, and that they
casting lots. Yes.
Casting lots for it. I mean, you cannot deny. I mean, that it's messianic.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. All right. Continue.
Yeah, and to find just within those few short verses in that chapter, at a skip of 21 letters, Yeshua is my name.
Yes, that's amazing.
It is. So it's understandable that's why we go to that as like a highlight example for Bible code, and why and how it works. Just beyond incredible. No words.
Yeah, that's amazing. Rob and I were talking. We did a show last night. We were talking about how studying the extra biblical books and the extra biblical texts, and finding so many different passages that are messianic and allude to the Savior Messiah. It's like, it's like having a treasure hunt. And exactly what you guys are doing, with the Bible codes and seeking out all this. I mean, it's so in similarity, our work is same, just in different platforms, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good way to put it. And speaking of extra biblical texts, we're going to be talking about Enoch and, the fallen watchers, which is a hot topic. Lots of
Hmm.
people have always asked about that topic, and it was something personally that I never really got around to. So I decided to take a look finally, and I just recently, I've been doing this for 2 years now, just about, and I just recently got into looking in the Aramaic Peshitta, which is something we started doing, and for ongoing now for a few months, and we're seeing a lot of interesting things and getting a lot of interesting results. We're still testing out our results and using the Hebrew construct versus the Aramaic construct. Because when you get results with the Hebrew construct, we're kind of just doing comparative results. And we have a student who's using now strictly Aramaic construct in the Aramaic and getting awesome results. It makes sense. It's also interesting when you get results in the Hebrew.
Hmm.
Um, so, um, anyways, I wanted to look in the book of Jude. So I just kind of was going through some ideas, and I'm like, well, I just start looking for the watchers. I mean, this is obvious because Jude, that it's what it's about. And, you know, we can go on, we can spend a long time going on a rant about, why it's not in the Bible. It is scripture, whether people like it or not. Number one,
Right.
Jude, regardless of there's a lot of debate on who he is and what have you. If he was a half brother, he's named as a brother or to James, so he was essentially be a brother to Yeshua, a half brother, or however you want to place it. Um, and so he obviously spoke to Yeshua about these things, and he had access to Enoch. So it's just undeniable. And so we're going to see this method being applied, and we're going to see the results. And it's just astounding. If you go to the 200 Fallen Watchers annotation there in Jude, and Jude is a very short book. It's only 25 verses. And I was kind of looking at the names of these fallen watchers, the chiefs of tens, right?
Hmm.
This is where we get into like the first couple chapters of Enoch, where he's naming the chiefs of tens of these fallen watchers, because I guess they were like little, you have like the head top guy, and then you've got like the little captains, lieutenants or whatever,
Right.
whatever. Um, so the translations, they kind of vary. I'm right now I'm just I've been kind of going back and forth with it. I'm pretty satisfied with this, but I'm trying to find some of the other watchers, and the spellings of the names get it's kind of tough. You can go in circles with the Aramaic, and then with the Hebrew they vary. But Azael or Azazel, um, it's speculated that he's the leader, but Shemyaza was the one that was named as a leader. But Azazel or Azael, it's a truncated spelling, but it's the same one we're talking about. He was the one that all the sins were placed upon him because he had taught men. Here, just let me. I got books and notes everywhere here. I've got your book here, The Collected Works of Enoch.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates. He had made known to them the metals of the earth, the art of working them, the bracelets, the ornaments, the use of antimony, the beautifying of the eyelids, which is makeup, all kinds of costly stones, and coloring tinctures. Um, so um, I put his name in, just in Jude, and ran it, and it came up at a skip of 200.
You're talking about Azazel, right?
Yes, we're talking about Azazel. the scapegoat that's named 3 times in Leviticus. The one that they put the
Yeah,
ribbon on and send out into the
yeah,
wilderness.
right. I
Right?
wanted to bring something up to your attention as well.
Sure.
Do you know that Shemyaza, it means my name is Aza?
Asa, yes. Shem is name. The word Shem is
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes.
that what people believe, because Shemyaza, they believe that that is the another name of one of the chiefs of the fallen angels, but in my opinion, it's just another title alluding to Azazel as the main one. And in my opinion, Azazel and Satan and Samael, they are all the same individuals, which is
Oh,
why all the sins are ascribed to Azazel, because he is Samael, the angel of death, who is Satan, the adversary of man.
right. Yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of debate that goes around about naming that position, but that makes sense. Um, but
Yeah, I think so.
um, but this is just really amazing what's taking place here in the text. And trust me, I'm not tooting my own horn. It's
That's
just
a lot. I mean, looking at the
it is.
code,
There's
it's a
so
lot.
much detail there. Now, the skip number 200, I was immediately blown
Oh,
away.
wow. That is
200 fallen
amazing.
watchers.
Right. Yeah,
At, at,
200.
at a skip of 200. Now, I put a row skip in it.
That is crazy.
That's intense. Now, with a row skip in it, that what that means is the page margin is now down to half at 100, but his name Azael is still at a skip of 200. Now, this this kind of gives room and opportunity for other things to appear in a text. It is not manipulating the text. Mathematically, it is still correct. It still works because you have Azael at a skip of 200, and there, I mean, right next to his name, you have Hallel. Now, I want to explain Isaiah 14:12, where it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground? Which did thou weaken the nations?" Okay, now you won't see Lucifer in the original text. It's a
Right.
made-up name. So for everybody who's out there worshiping Lucifer, they don't know what they're doing. They're worshiping a false thing. It doesn't even exist. It says Halel, the one who howls, or howling, howling,
hmm
and that's that word right there. Yalel. Um, that's pretty mind blowing to be right there next to his name. You have
Oh,
Nakash.
yeah. Again, in my opinion, it shows the links between Azazel, Hallel, the
Yes,
Nakash. I mean, they're, in my opinion, the dragon. It's mind blowing. It's all again, the same. I saw Satan as lightning fall from the heavens, is what
right.
Christ said of him.
And going through the Axis term, his name there. You'll have verse 6 out of Jude, the angels that kept not their primacy but left their station, he hath reserved in chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day. It's describing it right there in the text. Um, going perfectly vertically at a perfect skip of the page width. You have in the sight of Noah. This would have happened in the sight of Noah.
Uh-huh.
That's just incredible.
Wow,
There,
that's amazing.
there, at the same skip as Azael, next to his name, you have Lebanon. Now, where is Mount Hermon located?
Right. Yeah, in Lebanon. That is amazing. And the fact that all of this is found in the book of Jude. And what was the verse that you said? Or the
Verse
verses?
6.
Wow.
Verse 6. And right there above verse 6, you have Hermon encoded
That is amazing.
at a skip of 4. And in the same line where you see Hermon encoded, you have the angels.
hmm
It does say angel, but didn't annotate the aleph there, which makes it plural in the Aramaic. Angels, Herman. And there you have more encoded at an ELS. You have the Watchers. You have the sons of El connected to the Watchers. You have the word dragon in the plain text over there to the right. I found this interesting. The ephod is connected to Azael. It shares the aleph in his name there, if you can see it in the blue. And then going at a perfect skip of the page width, right above that, you have stones. And the reason why I left that there is because of the King of Tyre passage out of Ezekiel 27. You know, every precious stone was your covering. Now we have a theory. We have a theory that Satan had an ephod.
9 stones.
Huh?
Satan, he only had 9 stones instead of 12.
So,
all right, hold on, brother. Hold on.
Okay.
We'll be right back for second hour, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio, and I'm honored to have as guest with me Scott Bunnell. And Scott is part of the Code Searchers group. And Scott, if people wanted to join, where would they go to inquire?
You can come to the YouTube channel, or he does have a website, and there are instructions to contact him.
Jonathan.
Right? Yes, Jonathan. And just
last name.
Wright, Wright.
Jonathan Wright. Okay.
And it's not, like I said, it's not just confined to codes. It's well rounded because, you know, we believe in obviously Yeshua, Messiah, and restoration of the word.
Amen.
And you know, it's been branded as a cult and stuff like that. And listen, we're way too diverse to be a cult. All right. I mean, and trust me, don't think it wasn't a concern of mine when I because that's how I came upon Code Searchers, because I wanted to learn Hebrew. I had all of a sudden I had just like an itch, like I want to learn this Hebrew. And I can't explain why. It was just like a spark, you know, that happened inside of me. And I ended up at Code Searchers because everybody else just wanted ridiculous amounts of money or what have you. And they do have that option. You can come and you don't have to do codes if you don't want to. And you're not really obligated. You can go through the courses as freely as you want to. Nobody's chained down. Everybody has their position on things and where they're at in others, certain doctrines or ideas or concepts. We're really diverse. We do debate about things. Sometimes they're in a diverse group. Sometimes there's going to even be small arguments. That is not indicative of a cult. You know,
right.
we just had somebody leave because of a disagreement on some scripture or something. And of course, the easy way out was, oh, well, you guys are a cult. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's been a great place for me to learn and go further in my walk. And just for me personally, it must have been purposed or something for a guy that failed Spanish in high school to just in a couple of years, just, you know, reading in a Hebrew Tanakh. It's just personally, it's profound for me, and very grateful for Jonathan and all the other people that are there in the group, and our fellow researchers and everything. Just so grateful for them. It's a great group, and we have a great time, and so much is learned. And it's not just it's not just with the codes. It's just, learning scripture. It's been a great way for me to get into the word.
You share anything, right?
Huh?
You guys share everything and anything of interest.
Yeah. We cover a variety of topics. And like I said, there's a lot of diverse opinions. So, yeah, we meet twice a week. Like I said, there's no obligation. If you can only come at certain times, that's fine. We're there. And Jonathan on his channel, he tries to put up as much content as he can. And there are other students there as well that are putting in content. Just to kind of keep things moving. I mean, we just operate how the Spirit moves,
Uh-huh. Well, before we went to break, we were talking. You were bringing up the ephod, and I was talking about how Satan. It speaks about how he has 9 stones of the 12, and that the high priest has 12 stones, one for each of the tribes.
Yes. Yeah, I find that interesting. I didn't know if it was 9. Now, could that be? Are they missing? Were they missing, or was it just purpose for 9?
Yeah, God didn't give him all the mysteries of heaven.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, he purposely did not reveal to him everything because he knew he would rebel, and he would also bring the mysteries of heaven down in order to corrupt and lead astray humanity.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The list of watchers here in chapter 8 in Enoch, or going into 9, describe that very well. And I'm going to make a point about that here in a little bit when we move on. But I know it was a discussion and an idea that we were going back and forth with, just because of that chapter, the King of Tyre chapter. And there was some speculation and ideas that this was passed down to, or somehow Cain ended up with it. And obviously the only way to reconcile that would be encoding. When you read, is it chapter 5 in Genesis that gives the lineage of Cain?
Yeah, chapter 4.
Chapter 4. That's right. I mean, it's a replica lineage of Adam, except the evil part. And,
right.
Perhaps the ephod was used to go back and forth, or to come down to Herman. So it was just something I looked for in the coding here, and I just found it interesting that it was attached to his name there. So if you move on down to that second annotation of that table is right below that, but that third one, after I had worked on that first one, I went back and took another look, and at a perfect skip, you'll see the word cloud giants in the blue. I don't know if you see that over there to the right. Right next to Lilith. I thought that was interesting because, that story out of the Lost Books of Adam and Eve. I thought it was interesting. It was there. It's a different table, but it's the same. It's the same skip page margin. That's indicated with some of the other terms that I had left in there. To the left there, you'll have the term, the ones descending. Yaredim. The word Yared is, as you know, descending.
Yes.
And then the yod and the mem. The yod and the mem at the end there make it a plural, im. So you have that expression and that idea of it being plural, the ones descending. And you have this interesting string of words that come together going through very significant plain text, just to the left of that, and you have this word, his contempt, their provision is fire. He will bound them up. Now it says that they're bound up in darkness until they are condemned to fire. So that's their judgment, to be bound up in fire. And it's going through the word angels. And it's also going through the word, well, what's translated as, this is something else I'm going to bring up, the wandering stars, right? The wandering stars passage.
Mm-hmm.
The raging waves of the sea, which by their foam manifest their confusion. This version says shooting stars. I thought that's interesting. The wandering stars, for which is reserved for the blackness of darkness forever. It's talking about their judgment. Now, you'll see that highlighted in the plain text there, but when you look at it in the Aramaic, it doesn't say wandering stars. And when you look at it in the Greek, it doesn't say that either. It says planetes. Planetes, that's how you get, I guess how you get that word planets. But the Aramaic is very different. It's vastly different because it doesn't say planets. It doesn't say wandering. It says deceitful or imposter. I don't know if I put that annotation up. No, I didn't. It's not there anywhere. But if you go to I
do see it actually. It's in that white box. It says deceiver.
Oh, okay, imposter. Yeah, that's what the program is giving you, the translation. But I have an annotation directly out of the Aramaic Peshitta. It is a it's called the site is called Dukrana. It's Dukrahna, and it gives you access to the Aramaic Peshitta, full analysis. You could look at the Galilean Aramaic, and you could look at the old Syriac text, the original font from Assyria, because it morphed into because the Galilean Aramaic is different in its characterization, it's in its font. It suits the Hebrew, although it is Aramaic. So it kind of the languages kind of came together, you know. I didn't know a whole lot about the Aramaic, and so, anyways, when you look at the old Syriac text, it gives you the option to analyze and give you the translations, and that word is not the word that follows. Now, sometimes in the spellings, the words are reversed. It's kind of like in Spanish. Sometimes you say things backwards and you put words in front of others. It works the same way in Hebrew. So the following word there, it's not wandering, and it's not planetes like it says in the Greek. It's deceitful or imposter stars. So, it kind of almost gives an indication that if they're deceitful, they must have intelligence. And, if they're intelligent, then what are they? So then that gives you a whole new kind of idea about cosmology. And
stars
I know
are sentient.
Yeah, and I want to tell you something, and this may kind of sound weird to anybody who's listening. When I was a little kid, I remember looking up at the sky. I was a real little kid. It's always stuck with me, and it's almost kind of, well, nothing's a coincidence. Here I am talking about it and examining this passage, but I remember as a young child looking up at the sky and going, the stars are talking to me. Like, I didn't know what they were saying, but I just felt like they were watching, or like they were alive or something. And when you read passages like all the stars shouted for joy, and you read things like this, it makes you think,
right?
Yeah. And put things into consideration, and with all the new outlook on cosmology and everything, you've got to wonder.
Right, because in the biblical cosmology, it specifies how the stars, they have free will to choose to maintain their circuits or not.
Right.
And like the wandering stars that didn't, they were replaced and they were cast out or darkness. And so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That is
and then
described.
also, with regard, now that we know that the sun, as it's moving closer to the Tropic of Cancer, its its revolution is shortened, so it slows down. And as it moves outward towards the Tropic of Capricorn, as we see it now, we're almost, to the longest day of the year, that it has to move faster. And so the sun is adjusting its speed every day in order to maintain oh, one revolution with one 24-hour day. And so that shows sentience as well. And
Right.
it also says in the second book of Enoch that, the stars, I mean, the sun is lit by the light of 1,000 angels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
all
That's
those things are fascinating.
yeah. Yeah. And that's greatly detailed in what it's the courses of the heavenly luminaries in chapters 72 through 82. And
Right.
there's a lot of detail on that. So
Yeah, well, let's keep going because it seems like you have quite a number here.
yeah, I do. We're gonna move on to something else here in a
But
minute.
let me just say, this one in the book of Jude, I mean, we could spend 2 hours
Oh,
on
oh
this
my
one alone,
goodness.
and
Oh
it's
yeah.
so deeply
It
profound.
is so, I mean, the detail that, and not just the detail, the amount of them.
Right. And the profundity of this one code
Yes.
in itself, is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yes. The correlation and the validation of the account of the fallen washers, all
Mm.
right there contained in Jude. Um, Jude will give you a couple strong details, and now with code, it just packs in all those extra details
Mm-hmm.
to back up and then verify the Book of Enoch in the Aramaic Peshitta.
Right. Oh, let me make a comment too as well with regard to the Peshitta for those that don't know. Um, and in my opinion, there's that the Aramaic, the Peshitta, and the Syriac, that was a different root, and this is what the Eastern Orthodox churches use. They use the Aramaic Peshitta and the ancient Syriac text, whereas the Western Orthodox churches and what is the Western portion of the Roman Empire that came up to be the Roman Catholic Church, they use the Greek, the Septuagint, and the
Mm-hmm.
Masoretic text. And they're very much different. People don't realize this.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the Holy Spirit is regarded as feminine in the Aramaic and the Peshitta and the ancient Syriac. Even the
Mm-hmm.
words for Ruach are feminine. And so these kind of things were altered in the Greek text. And then again, the translation of the word of the Lord, which is found so many times in the ancient Aramaic, is been, you know, diminished and um, extirpated from the Greek and the English. And so, in my mind, it can't be accidental because there's too many instances and it shows organized effort to
Yes.
try to hide and try to expunge this information that Yahushua was and is Savior Messiah. So
Yes. Yes. And not only that, but to twist doctrines around, because
exactly.
a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff is becoming apparent in our studies. Um,
Yes.
that's why we've kind of endeavored to figure out what's going on, because we've had Dr. Pigeon on with us recently, and we started looking at some things, and I mean, it becomes plainly clear that somebody with intent is trying to hide things.
Exactly. Right.
Like looking at the word law and Torah, like I had noticed in the Greek that when it's talking about law, you see this word nomos, right? And when you look at it in the Aramaic, you have this word nomos. Now, it, they should be vastly different in their pronunciations, but you have a direct phonetic translation from the Aramaic to the Greek. It didn't make sense. Now, I could understand maybe if it was like a name, like a name of a person or something. Sometimes you have very similar phonetics there taking place. I just thought it was weird that it's the same word. It's the same pronunciation, so there's no way to tell the difference if he's talking about the Torah or if he's talking about man's law or if he's talking about Murphy's law. Because when you talk about law, what are you talking about? And so, we have this theory that they were just trying to hide the fact that he was speaking out against the Talmud. So and hinging this whole idea that he was speaking against the Torah. So things like that.
Right.
Here we have another example in Jude. The word impostor and deceitful is there and not wandering, and it's not planted to tease. So, and also Chris was rooting out Hebrew words out of the Aramaic, and applying that, you get different interpretations, you get different context. So a lot has to be considered, and and it's important it's important because don't people want to know the truth?
I would hope so.
Of what it's saying, and as opposed to what they've been taught.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Overall, that doesn't change the fact that we love Elohim with all our mind, heart, and soul, and we love our neighbors as ourselves. That doesn't change, but some of us we're just hungry to get to the fine details.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just something I've become passionate about, and a lot's coming to light. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I have. I don't know if I have anything. There's a few other things, but and I just want to tell you, Zen, speaking out like this on this kind of platform, publicly and everything, it's usually pretty nerve-wracking for myself. Like even to this day, like when I'm in our study group and in class with people that I've known for a while, when I present tables and stuff, I'm just like a nervous wreck. I'm just like, and you make it so comfortable, Zen, with your character and your loving nature. I appreciate it. I'm very comfortable and relaxed to be able to do this. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, brother. And I'm going to need that because what we're going to talk about next, I'm probably going to get burned at the stake for, sent to the gallows, and otherwise ostracized and outcasted.
Well,
which is a concept you're pretty familiar with.
Good company.
Yeah, I'll take a spot at the stake right next to you.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The gas can.
Right.
So we're getting into something that's not Bible code anymore. Forget about Bible codes for a second.
All right.
In my research, I started seeing some anomalies, and Chris had actually laid a foundation for this a handful of years ago. He was seeing the same things. I think Isaac Newton even had found one. And what I'm talking about is words as years. Now, what you might ask, what do you mean words as years? Well, we're talking about alphanumerics. alphanumeric interpretation. This is something that's can be commonly called gematria. Now, most people fly off the handle when they hear that word.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to point out that when you talk about gematria, again, this isn't something that's like evil or bad or dispositive. It's a simple method of interpretation. That's all it is. Hebrew doesn't have a number set.
Right.
Okay,
The
it's
letters are numbers.
the letters are numbers. So if I put a set of characters together to make a number, and it's maybe 4 or 5 of them, doesn't it make sense at some point one of these sets of character sets is going to make a word?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to pan out that way. So in my over the course of doing Bible codes, I started seeing this. I started seeing years as words. And so keep in mind that this is theoretical. This is all theoretical. And the theory is do the alphanumeric translations do they resonate with the text? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And do they fit the context? And that's what we're looking at. The other thing I want people to understand is that I didn't find these with intent. Okay, and I want people to understand as well that I'm not making any predictions, and I'm stepping out in faith. And it's my hope and it's my prayer that people will understand that this isn't what I'm doing. I'm presenting some findings because Zen, you looked at them.
Yeah.
This
All right.
can't.
Hold on, brother.
Okay.
We'll be right back for final segment, everyone. All right. Welcome back, everybody, for final segment. We were covering how in the Hebrew, there are no numbers, but the letters serve as both letter and number, which is one of the ways that in doing the work of the translations, they were able to verify that they had translated the chapters and scriptures correctly because they could add up those chapters and it would give a certain number, and as long as that number was correct, they knew that the translation was correct because otherwise it would not add up to the correct tally. And so that is something of interest as well. And so if you would go ahead and continue, Scott.
Sure. So what the idea is we started seeing these things in the text, and I I saw these things working on tables. The ones I had found in Exodus appeared on a database, and I just happened to look at them. I didn't know what it meant at first, but after looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, I started to make sense of what was taking place. With the others in Ezekiel, I was working on a Bible code table, and I believe my axis term was budding fig tree. And it was right there connected to the axis term. It just jumped out at me. And when I saw it, about fell out of my chair. So I wasn't looking for these with intent. I had no intent. It's just something that I just happened upon, and I've been sitting on it for a while. And it's been an inner struggle, really. It's not easy, and at the same time, I just have to repeat that this is just theoretical, something to look at. I mean, you've looked at it, Zen. I just can't sit on something like this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of something just worth checking out.
Right.
So we're going to look at the ones that are past, have already passed, and just kind of ponder, you know, the possibilities. 5728, that first annotation, it appears there in Psalms 13:1, Jeremiah 2:32, and Isaiah 49:15, which is the one I just kind of want to speak on because we're kind of running out of time, and I could spend a long time talking about this. And this is the light unto the Gentiles passage there in Isaiah, and it reads, Isaiah 49:15, can a woman forget her suckling child, that he should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. And that first word, alphanumerically, is 5728 on the Hebrew calendar, which was 1968. Why is that significant, and how does it relate to the text? Well, 1968, you're just following now, you're proceeding the Six-Day War. And Israel, as a nation state, has gone in. They've gotten Gaza. They've gotten Sinai. They've gotten the West Bank. They've got East Jerusalem. And when I talk about Israel, I talk about spiritual Israel. I talk about the house of Israel. I talk about two-house Israel. Ephraim and Judah. And how the system, how the identity has been completely hijacked by political Zionism.
Right.
Okay, and people have no understanding of who or what Israel is, and so this kind of identifies Judah's recognition of Ephraim. Judah's supposed to carry the banner in that passage, and it completely left Ephraim out of the picture, and right. taking land, and not recognizing the rest of Israel, and creating a political nation instead of a spiritual nation is the best way for me to explain that. So, preceding this Six-Day War, and after everything in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration and
right.
All of that, Ephraim giving over the land and recognizing a political Zionist state. So it's all in relationship to that. And the Jubilee, declaring a Jubilee and not following through with Leviticus 25. That is huge. I mean, the prophecy of Shemuel ben Judah, the things that took place do match, but was it a real Jubilee? Was it Yah's Jubilee? Or was it a false Jubilee? Because if 2017 was an actual Jubilee, I mean, you would think that the regathering would have taken place and, all that would have occurred in it, and it hasn't yet. So that's all in question now. And something else we're looking at, we just kind of brought it off the table for now because it just kind of got into not a heated debate, but, we kind of went around in circles with it. And, ultimately, let's just face it, there's some unclear things, and there's a lot to consider.
Now, you're speaking about Synagogue of Satan, right?
The Synagogue of Satan?
Yeah, as far as the false Zionist state, as far as the Talmudists that are in charge and running Israel. Yeah.
Thank you. See,
those
this is
who
my
say
area
they are Jews but are not.
Right. Yeah, that's all part of it. And,
right.
And there's influence from the Vatican and everything else because, you don't own land in Israel. You kind of just lease it from the state. I mean, but if Rome wanted to get land there, they could own it there.
Yeah.
And
how they're trying to turn it all over to the United Nations.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all part of it as well. And even here in America, I mean, we gave all of our national parks and put them under United Nations control. I mean, those kind of things. But, yeah.
Exactly. So to see that there that year, it kind of makes sense when you consider that whole thing with the identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel 8:12. Now we're getting into Alexander the Great coming in and kind of taking over after Medo-Persia, right? And this is where it's talking about the goat and the ram, okay? And obviously this is when Antiochus comes in and the abomination, slaughtering the pig, all of that.
Food sacrifice unto idols, Maccabees, Maccabee 4, trying to force the high priest Eleazar and his family to eat food sacrificed unto idols. Right. And if people aren't familiar with that whole story, Antiochus Epiphanes, he had the lion men of Moab carry out the torture of the Israelites. And so that's a whole interesting concept as well.
Yes. You'll see in the text, I'll just read the verse. And a host was given to him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and it prospered. This is talking about the abomination. And that second word from the last there in Daniel 8:12 is it translates as "and she did," and it cast down and it cast down. And alphanumerically, it's now this is going backwards. Sometimes you see this and that's an interesting anomaly. That's why I say it's an anomaly. It's 5776, which is 2016. Now, the reason why we think that's significant is this is when Trump comes into office, and he's, as everybody knows who's been following along, that Trump is he's like a typology of Cyrus.
Cyrus type, yeah.
He's a Cyrus figure. And he comes into office, and this is when this whole process begins now, because he gets together with the Palestinian leader, right, Abbas, and begins this whole process. And he's a supporter of the establishment, and he recognizes Jerusalem as the capital and in full support of building this temple. Now, the timing is in question. We're in close proximity. Did it start a 7-year period? Well, I don't know. No. I mean, if it didn't, it's close. So now we're within proximity, because now, I mean, what just took place this year? They slaughtered a blemished goat on the Mount of Olives.
Right.
It's an abomination. Now, is it the one that took place in Daniel 9 that it's talking about in Daniel 9 or in Matthew 24? Well, no, because it didn't happen on the Temple Mount. But we're seeing like a rehearsal, and we're seeing animals being slaughtered in the area. And he said it's finished, it's done. And here they are sacrificing animals again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to consider when you think about things that are taking place prophetically. Here we are, moving down to Isaiah 42:3. A bruised reed shall not break, smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. Okay, 5786. Okay, this is where we get into future dates, okay? And
cool.
Yes, the future. Oh my goodness. And I just, something I want to say about that. I'm not going to spin any kind of crazy ideas. I'm just showing what's there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's okay for people to, look at the weather and forecast the weather and forecast space events like eclipses and stuff like that, how could it be wrong to examine the word of Yahuwah? Right. For answers, going there for answers. Now, if I was in here trying to spin crazy doctrines and stuff, well, which is something I already dealt with, and it's in similar subject material. It's kind of ironic. We're going to get to Exodus 9:31 here in a second and talk about that. But we're just looking at these words and seeing how they translate into these years. It's interesting. Exodus 9:31. I'll just get right to it. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bald. It means in the pod. This word flax, hey tau shampe, that's 5780. That is 2020. If you look at that second annotation from the bottom, if you look at the second annotation from the bottom, that's my annotation. 5780 is flax. And we talked about that and was pondering that whole concept. And well, flax is used to make linen. And in Revelation 19, let me just read it here, because I want to read the passage that's right before that. Revelation. The bride is given the fine linen. 19. Okay, here we go. 8. Oops, I'll go back. Just bear with me here for a second. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. This is the marriage of the Lamb. Okay. Flax is used to make linseed oil and textiles and fine linen. So how is that significant? Well, perhaps it's time to get ready for the wedding, you know? That's how I could construe that. And that could be, with the hay at the end, it's 2025, 5785. Another interesting thing is when you look at that word barley, shin ayin resh, barley, when you spell it backwards, it's earthquake. Okay, now I'm not sitting here and saying there's going to be earthquakes and stuff in 2020 and 2025. Okay, but if there is, you know, there was a hint. Okay, I'm not saying there's going to be, but it's kind of interesting when you see it that way in the text, because I had to put this picture up. Have you ever seen a can of Quaker oats?
Yeah.
Barley is used to make oats. When you spell it backwards, it's the word quake.
Interesting.
Yeah. A friend of mine brought that up. Actually, it was Chris who brought that up to me. And you know, maybe they knew. You know, maybe they knew kind of some of the hidden secrets like that. You know, and the way it operates. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just something to look at.
Right. We got 9 minutes. So
we got 9 minutes. Okay, you know, that's why I'm just kind of going through here, just kind of quick.
Yeah.
Ezekiel. All right, we're just going to get to the juicy part. Ezekiel. I'm scrolling through here. All right, Ezekiel 20:4. Now they're being warned, and they're being, well, not rebuked. They're just being reminded about their abominations. And Ezekiel 24, wilt thou judge them, son of man? Wilt thou judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers. Now, Yah is speaking through and to Ezekiel. And alphanumerically, that word, you shall judge, is 2029. I mean, that's just what it is. 5789. You have it there in 20, verse 4, and you have it in 22:3. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You have 22 in verse 2. 22 in verse 2. You have it there twice. Okay? And what's interesting before that is you have the Son of Man in the text. Now, we know why that's, significant, because that's what Yeshua referred to himself as, the Son of Man. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, another thing to consider. At the time, he was warning them about the destruction of Jerusalem. So when you consider the context, maybe it has something to do with Jerusalem. You know what I mean? But overall, since we're running out of time, here's what I gather. Regardless of whether this is accurate or not, get ready, because we should always be ready, okay? And considering what's taking,
yes.
yeah, sure. And in light of what's taking place right now, especially with the 70 Nations Conference and the animal sacrifice that is taking place, this whole situation with this Malki guy and the animal sacrifice, I mean, it's huge. 2020 is being the flax and the fine linen. For me, that means rehearsal time's over. Like, you can kind of act a fool during rehearsal and spill drinks on yourself and clown around. But now it's time to put the linen on and keep it clean and just, the wedding's about to start. Shh, quiet down. You know what I mean? For me,
Right.
that's how I take that for myself. And I'm going to do everything I can and fight tooth and nail to do that, because whether or not it's accurate or not, it impacts. It has impact. It has impact. And I don't want people freaking out, and I don't, don't go changing your lives and doing this and that, and
Well, actually, a lot of people need to change their lives.
Well, I mean,
A lot of
yes,
people don't take
that
kingdom
is a true
seriously.
statement. That is a true statement. But as far as selling everything you got, blah blah blah,
Oh,
blah,
yeah, right.
just because
Yeah.
based on what I'm telling you, okay? Right, like I said, this is theoretical, and this isn't easy for me, Zen. I mean, it's hard, I'm gonna have backlash for this. I'm expecting severe backlash. You know, this is just interesting stuff that's just jumped out in the text. Some people would have a better time explaining all of this. It's just, I just had to present this because, like I said, I can't see stuff like this and just let it sit there. If the sword is coming, warn the people.
Absolutely.
And the 2020s are. I don't want to give my opinion. I don't. I don't, because then I would just be, I would be putting in my input, and then it could be construed as a predictive or whatever. I'm just, it's just something to look at, and the 2020 should prove to be pretty interesting because things are already interesting.
Yeah, that brings me to, are you guys searching for any Antichrist type codes?
Yes. And that is, you get a lot of different results. There's a lot of different ideas, obviously, that go around. There are people of interest. But we've been, Chris has been doing codes on the false prophet. And I think he may even have something up on his channel. I know he has some annotations. Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I see on the horizon.
Yes.
As far as us moving further down the timeline of, the end of days, is that the Antichrist, the false prophet, all of that has to come into play. The beast system, the one world economic, one world government, religion, all that they're pushing.
Yeah.
That that has to come into play.
They're expecting Mashiach, and we know that their Mashiach is going to be not the real Mashiach.
Right,
yes.
Exactly.
Okay, and when we were talking about Kaduri, Rabbi Kaduri earlier, he had prophesied that the Mashiach will come, proceeding a time when the Israeli elections would take place and they would fail to form a government, and that happened this year. Benjamin Netanyahu, he got reelected in April, and they couldn't form a government all year, and then he had to get reelected again. And yeah, so it should be, we should see somebody stepping into the scene pretty soon. We'll just have to keep our eye out.
Right.
And it's a heads up kind of thing, I kind of had a tough time with that, Zen, I got to tell you. But I just felt like something I had to do, not out of selfish ambition. It's just, as a researcher, I just can't sweep that under the rug. You know what I mean? I just can't do it. So that's what it is. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's there in the text.
Well, we got 1 minute remaining, brother. So final comment for the listeners.
Take all things into consideration and just pray and ask Yahuwah to give you the answers. And just, that's it. It's just, Yahuwah be with everybody. Blessings to everybody. I just thank you for everybody for tuning in and following along. Like I said, it was just kind of tough on that one, but it's just something to look at and worth examining and to ponder. The answers, like I said, all the answers for everything are in the scriptures. All you got to do is look. And this is really interesting, and I just felt it was necessary to present. We're going to be studying this and examining it a little bit further. More information is going to be given out on this, and more presentations, and more thoroughly, with more thorough explanations. So, at that point, we could either dismiss or look at it further.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother. I will post the links for those that listen into the archives into the description, so you can check out what we're talking about. God
Thanks
bless
for having
all.
me back, Zen.
Yeah, be blessed, brother.
You too, bro.
Good night, all.